Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something I think is really, really cool. We're going to be talking about the art of indoor bonsai.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Now, when you think about bonsai, you often think about these kind of like, windswept trees clinging to rocks on a mountainside, right?
Right, yeah.
But there's a whole world of bonsai that are suited for living inside your home.
I know, it's awesome. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, and we're going to uncover what makes those trees suitable for being indoors, how caring for them indoors differs from their outdoor counterparts, and of course, all the essential tips to keep them thriving inside your living room.
Sounds good.
So when we think of bonsai, we often imagine trees that are meant for the outdoors.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the common perception, I guess.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about bonsai is that there are all these different species that are adaptable to all these different environments, specifically those that come from like tropical and subtropical regions.
Okay.
So they kind of thrive in those warmer, more consistent climates, which makes them perfect for indoors.
That makes sense. So can you tell us a little bit more about what bonsai actually is? What are the key elements that define it?
Yeah, so bonsai, and this is along with like some related practices like penjing and psyche, it's essentially the art of miniaturizing, right? So miniaturizing trees and landscapes in containers.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all about capturing the essence of nature's grandeur and beauty in a smaller form. So like imagine a tiny ecosystem, right, that's just meticulously shaped and nurtured. That's bonsai.
It's like having a piece of a forest on your coffee table.
Exactly.
But I'm guessing that caring for bonsai indoors, that presents some unique challenges compared to the traditional outdoor bonsai.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the biggest differences is just the environment itself. Indoor conditions like the lighting, the humidity, and even the temperature can be completely different from what a tree might experience outdoors.
Right.
So it's all about replicating those conditions as closely as possible indoors.
Right, because even if you put a bonsai near the brightest window,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably not getting the same intensity of sunlight that it would outdoors.
Yeah, exactly. Light is actually one of the biggest things that people who grow bonsai indoors, it's one of the biggest things they have to think about. Most trees require a good amount of light to do photosynthesis and to grow. And so indoor lighting, even if you have windows, it might not be enough.
So what can we do about that? I mean, are we talking about supplementing with artificial light?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes artificial lighting is essential for indoor bonsai. So using fluorescent or LED grow lights can actually provide the right spectrum of light that mimics natural sunlight.
Interesting. So it's almost like creating a mini sun for our indoor bonsai.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Now, thinking about those differences between indoor and outdoor environments, temperature and humidity probably play a huge role as well.
Yeah.
I'm curious how those factors affect indoor bonsai care.
Yeah, they're super important. So tropical trees, they can generally tolerate the normal room temperatures we have, but a lot of non-tropical species, they need a period of dormancy.
Okay.
They need those cooler temperatures to mimic, what happens in nature. So that might involve, during winter, you might have to move your bonsai to a cooler place in your home.
Oh, so it's not just about keeping them like warm and cozy all the time. Some of them need a little bit of that chill, huh?
Exactly. It's all about mimicking their natural cycles.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And what about humidity? I mean, our homes, they can be quite dry, especially with heating and air conditioning.
Yeah, you're totally right. Low humidity is a common problem for people who are trying to grow bonsai indoors, because that dry air can really stress out the trees. But there's a few ways to deal with this. Some simple solutions are like placing your bonsai on a tray of water with pebbles to create some humidity. Or even just grouping your plants together. Because plants naturally release moisture, so they create like a little tiny, humid microclimate.
It's like creating a tiny indoor rainforest.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is fascinating. It seems like keeping a bonsai alive indoors really requires an understanding of its needs.
Yeah.
It's not just about how it looks, it's about recreating that habitat. So let's talk about the types of trees that actually do well indoors. What comes to mind when you think about these miniature trees?
Well, there are so many different species you can grow as bonsai indoors. We can break it down into tropical and non-tropical species, and each has its own needs and characteristics.
Okay, so let's start with those tropical stars. What are some of the more popular options for indoor bonsai?
One of the most popular and beginner-friendly options is the jade plant. It's a succulent, so it's super resilient and forgiving, especially if you're someone who sometimes forgets to water their plants.
Oh, that's good to know. So it sounds like a jade plant might be a good place to start for, someone who's just beginning their indoor bonsai journey.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they also look amazing as bonsai because they develop, those thick trunks and that vibrant green foliage.
Okay, so a great combination of resilience and visual appeal.
Yeah.
What other tropical options stand out to you?
The ficus family is another favorite. Varieties like the weeping fig and the willow-leafed fig are really popular. They can be trained into a lot of different styles, and they can even develop aerial roots.
Aerial roots. Those are the dangling roots you see on like huge banyan trees.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing we can recreate that in miniature with indoor bonsai.
It is. It's pretty cool.
So cool. What else?
And speaking of unique forms, the Hawaiian umbrella tree. This one's got these cool leaves that kind of look like little umbrellas. And with the right care, it can also grow those aerial roots and even develop into a banyan-like form.
It's like bringing a piece of the tropics into your home.
Uh,
So we've got the hardy jade plant, the dramatic ficus with those aerial roots, and the charming Hawaiian umbrella tree. That's quite a diverse selection already. But can any non-tropical trees actually thrive indoors?
You might be surprised. There are actually quite a few non-tropical species that do really well indoors if you take good care of them.
Really? That's surprising. Which ones come to mind?
One that a lot of people are surprised by is the Norfolk pine.
Okay.
It's a conifer, so it has those nice needle-like leaves, and it really does well indoors. It's perfect if you want that evergreen look, but you don't have to deal with harsh winters.
A pine tree inside. That changes my whole perception of indoor bonsai. What other non-tropical options are out there?
Well, the camellia is a fantastic choice. It's a flowering tree that produces these stunning blooms. Some varieties do really well indoors, and they can add a touch of elegance to any space.
I love camellias. Can already picture a miniature camellia bonsai in full bloom on like a bookshelf. That would be gorgeous. What other non-tropical trees can we explore?
For something that's tough and looks great, there's the boxwood. It's known for its dense evergreen foliage and its ability to withstand pruning really well, so it's great for shaping.
So it's perfect for those who like the hands-on aspect of bonsai care, shaping and styling.
Exactly, yeah.
What else?
And lastly, there's the Chinese elm, which is really versatile. This species can actually thrive both indoors and outdoors. It's got these graceful branches, and it develops this really beautiful aged look over time.
So we've covered quite a range here,
Yeah.
from the hardy jade plant and the elegant camellia to the adaptable Chinese elm. It's incredible how diverse the world of indoor bonsai really is.
Yeah,
But choosing the right species is only the first step.
right.
We also need to know how to properly care for them to make sure they thrive in our homes. And that's what we'll dive into in the next part of this deep dive.
For sure.
It's going to be good.
I'm excited. Yeah, that's right. Caring for indoor bonsai goes way beyond, just appreciating how they look. It's about really understanding their needs and creating a suitable environment for them to actually flourish.
So let's dive into like the nitty-gritty of indoor bonsai care. We've talked about things like light temperature, humidity, but I'd love to get a bit more specific.
Mm-hmm.
For our listeners who are now like, I want to start my indoor bonsai journey, where should they begin?
Okay, well, choosing the right tree is probably the most important thing. It's really the foundation of your whole bonsai experience. And one of the key things to consider right off the bat is the difference between tropical and non-tropical species.
Right. We talked about that a bit earlier. But could you remind us why that distinction is so crucial when it comes to indoor bonsai care?
Yeah, so tropical species, they're used to those warm and consistent temperatures all year round. But non-tropical species, they need that period of dormancy with cooler temperatures to really thrive. It's like giving the tree a chance to rest and recharge for the next growing season.
So it's about mimicking those natural cycles they would experience outdoors.
Right, exactly.
And that might mean moving the bonsai to a cooler spot during the winter, like a basement or maybe a cool windowsill.
Yeah, exactly. You're basically recreating the conditions they would have in their natural habitat.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like making sure your bonsai feels at home, even though it's living in a pot inside your house.
Yeah.
So let's say I've chosen my tree. I've done my research on its needs, and I'm ready to get my hands dirty and start taking care of it. What are the most important things I need to focus on when it comes to indoor bonsai care?
Well, light is definitely at the top of the list. As we said earlier, indoor lighting, even near a window, it might not be enough for most bonsai. They just need a lot of light.
Yeah, so what's the best way to make sure my indoor bonsai is getting enough light? Should I just be constantly moving it around my house, trying to find the sunniest spot?
Well, putting your bonsai near the brightest window you have is a good starting point. Ideally, a south-facing window that gets at least 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight every day.
Okay. But what about people who live in apartments with limited window space or in places that have dark winters? It's not always possible to get that much natural light.
Yeah, you're right. And that's where those artificial lights come in handy. Fluorescent or LED grow lights can be a game changer for indoor bonsai, especially when you just don't have enough natural light.
So we're basically creating our own little suns for our bonsai, but there are so many different grow lights out there. What kind would you recommend, and how do we use them effectively?
For most indoor bonsai, a full spectrum LED grow light is a great option. They provide the right range of light to help with photosynthesis and growth.
Okay, so full spectrum LED grow lights it is. And where should we put them?
You want to position the grow light about 6 to 12 inches above your bonsai. Make sure it's getting that direct light. And leave it on for about 10 to 12 hours each day to mimic that natural daylight cycle.
So we're giving our bonsai a regular dose of sunshine, even on those cloudy days.
Exactly.
Okay, lights covered. What about watering? How often should we be watering our indoor bonsai? Is there like a magic formula?
Unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to watering. The frequency really depends on a bunch of things, like what kind of tree you have, the size of the pot, the soil, and even the temperature and humidity in your home.
So how do we know when our bonsai is thirsty? Are there any telltale signs we should be looking for?
The best thing to do is just check the soil regularly. Stick your finger about an inch into the soil. If it feels dry, it's time to water. If it's still moist, you can wait a bit longer.
It's like we have to learn to read the signals our bonsai are giving us.
Yeah, exactly. It takes some practice and paying attention. But you'll get a feel for your bonsai's specific needs.
I could imagine overwatering could be a problem too, especially since bonsai pots are relatively small.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Overwatering can lead to root rot, which is not good for your bonsai. It's always better to underwater than overwater. If the soil's still damp, just hold off on watering for a bit.
So it's all about balance, finding that sweet spot.
Exactly.
We've talked about light and water.
Yeah.
What about feeding our bonsai? How do we make sure they're getting all the nutrients they need to thrive?
Well, bonsai need nutrients just like any other plant. And because they live in a confined space with limited soil, we have to fertilize them regularly to give them those nutrients.
What kind of fertilizer should we use? Are there special bonsai fertilizers, or can we just use regular plant food?
There are bonsai-specific fertilizers out there, but you can also use a balanced liquid fertilizer and just dilute it to half strength. The key is to fertilize regularly during the growing season, which is usually spring and summer. And then you want to cut back or stop fertilizing altogether during the winter when the tree is dormant.
So it's kind of like giving them an extra boost of energy when they're actively growing and then letting them rest during their downtime.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing how every aspect of bonsai care seems to be about finding that perfect balance.
It is. It's about observation, intuition, and knowledge.
Speaking of balance, what about pruning? I know it's an important part of bonsai care, but I have to admit I'm a little intimidated by the idea of taking scissors to my tiny tree.
I get it. Pruning is definitely essential for bonsai. It helps shape the tree, control its size, and promote healthy growth. But it's not as scary as it sounds. With some practice and the right tools, you can become a confident bonsai pruner.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better. So what tools do we need to get started with bonsai pruning?
You don't need a ton of fancy tools. The most important thing is a good pair of bonsai shears. They're specifically designed for pruning those small branches and twigs.
So I can't just grab any old pair of scissors from my desk drawer?
It's best to invest in a good pair of bonsai shears. They'll make a huge difference in how clean and precise your cuts are.
Okay, good to know. Any other tools we should have?
A pair of concave cutters can be helpful for removing bigger branches. They leave a concave cut that heals really well. And then a wire cutter is useful for taking off wire that you've used to shape the branches.
So just a few essential tools to start our bonsai pruning adventures.
Yep, that's all you really need. When you get more experience and start trying more advanced techniques, you can always add to your toolkit.
So let's talk about the actual pruning process. Where do we even begin? Do we just start snipping away, or is there a method to this?
The first step is just to observe your bonsai really carefully. Take your time to study its shape, its branches, how it's growing. You're basically getting to know your tree and trying to picture how you want it to look in the future.
It's like we're having a conversation with our bonsai, listening to its story, and then helping it write the next chapter through pruning.
That's a great way to put it. Bonsai pruning is an art form. It's not just about cutting branches. It's about shaping a living sculpture.
So once we've gotten to know our bonsai, and we have a vision for how we want it to look, what's next?
Look for any branches that are crossing, rubbing, or growing inward. Those branches can make the tree weaker, and they can also take away from its overall look. You're essentially cleaning up the tree's shape and making it look more balanced.
It's like giving our bonsai a haircut.
Yeah, exactly. Every cut you make should have a purpose. You're guiding the tree's growth and shaping its future.
It's so much more than just trimming branches. It's like a dance between art and nature.
I like that.
But I know there's another technique that's really important for shaping bonsai, and that's wiring. I've seen those amazing pictures of bonsai with these beautifully curved and twisted branches. How do we create those shapes?
Wiring is what we use to bend and shape branches. It allows us to create those graceful curves and angles that are so characteristic of bonsai.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does wiring actually work? Do we just wrap wire around the branches and bend them into the shape we want?
It's a bit more nuanced than that. You have to carefully wrap a special kind of wire around the branch and then gently bend it into position.
It's like giving our bonsai a gentle nudge in the right direction.
Exactly. But just like pruning wiring takes practice and a light touch, we don't want to damage the branch.
What kind of wire do we use for bonsai?
There are different types, but anodized aluminum wire is a good one for beginners. It's flexible, easy to work with, and it won't rust.
And how long do we leave the wire on? Is it a permanent thing?
No, not at all. It depends on the type of tree and how thick the branch is. You have to keep an eye on the branch and remove the wire before it starts to cut into the bark and restrict growth.
So again, it's about finding that balance between shaping the tree and letting it grow naturally. We're guiding it, but also respecting its own way of growing.
Exactly. Bonsai is all about that interplay between what we do and what nature does. It's a partnership.
I love that perspective. It reminds us that even in these carefully controlled environments, nature always finds a way to express itself.
Yeah.
So we've covered light water fertilizer pruning and wiring.
Yeah.
That's a lot to think about. Is there anything else we need to know to keep our indoor bonsai healthy and happy?
One more important thing is repotting. Just like any other plant in a pot, bonsai need to be repotted every now and then to give their roots more room to grow.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
How often should we be repotting our bonsai, and what's the process like?
It depends on the type of tree and how fast it's growing. A young bonsai might need repotting every year or two, while a more mature bonsai might only need it every 3 to 5 years.
So we're back to paying attention to the individual needs of our bonsai.
Exactly. And repotting itself is a bit delicate, but not too hard. You carefully take the tree out of its pot, loosen up the roots a bit, trim any overgrown roots, and then put it in a slightly bigger pot with fresh soil.
It's like giving our bonsai a new home with more space to spread out and grow.
Exactly. It's also a good chance to check the roots for any problems and make sure they're healthy.
Repotting sounds like a skill worth learning.
It is.
We've covered so much ground today. From choosing the right bonsai to creating the perfect environment for it, it's clear that indoor bonsai care is a lot more than just watering a plant. It's a whole art form that takes knowledge, intuition, and a real appreciation for nature.
It is.
But it's also incredibly rewarding to nurture these little living works of art and watch them change over time. Before we move on, is there anything else you want to share with our listeners who are ready to start their own bonsai journey?
The biggest thing is just be patient and don't give up. Bonsai is a long game, but it's so worth it. Don't be afraid to experiment, make mistakes, and learn as you go. Every bonsai is unique, and the journey of taking care of it is just as special.
That's such a good reminder. Even in the world of miniature trees, there's always something new to discover, learn, and appreciate. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be exploring the more artistic side of bonsai. We'll delve into shaping, styling, and even creating those amazing miniature landscapes we talked about earlier. So stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive into the world of indoor bonsai. Welcome back to the deep dive, where we're exploring the captivating world of indoor bonsai.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff.
You know, in the last couple of parts, we've covered choosing the right species and like the basics of caring to these tiny trees. But now I want to go a little deeper, elevate your bonsai game maybe.
Okay, I like it.
Let's talk about the art of shaping and styling these miniature trees.
All right.
So what really makes bonsai unique is, it's a living art form,
Oh, for sure.
right? It's this ongoing conversation between the grower, the artist, and the tree. It's a dance of shaping and nurturing. It's so cool.
I love that, yeah. The dance of shaping and nurturing. It's so true, It's like you're collaborating with nature to create something beautiful and meaningful.
Exactly. So let's talk bonsai styles.
Yeah.
I know there are all sorts of different styles out there, each with its own kind of aesthetic and symbolism.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Tons. Bonsai styles are like different artistic expressions, each conveying a different mood, a different feeling, like reflecting a different part of nature.
So give me a crash course in bonsai aesthetics.
Okay, I like it.
What are some of the most popular styles and what makes them stand out?
Okay, well, one of the most recognizable is the formal upright style, or chokan in Japanese.
Okay.
And it's got this straight, tapering trunk with branches radiating outwards symmetrically, perfectly balanced, really elegant.
Oh, I can picture it. It's like those majestic trees you see in formal gardens, but miniature.
Exactly. Perfect proportions, reaching for the sky.
So symbolic, too.
Yeah, it represents strength, stability, resilience.
I love that. Okay. What else?
Then there's the informal upright style, moyogi. This one's a little more relaxed, natural.
Okay.
The trunk has a gentle curve, branches are asymmetrical, there's a sense of movement, grace.
So it's like capturing the tree that's grown out in nature, adapting to its environment.
Yeah, exactly. It's about adaptability, harmony, and the beauty of imperfection.
Each style tells a different story. So cool.
Totally. And there's so many more. Slanting style, where the trunk grows at an angle like it's being blown by the wind. Cascade style, with branches flowing down like a waterfall. Even the literati style, inspired by those old Chinese paintings, super sparse and elegant.
The variety is incredible. How do we choose a style for our own bonsai? Is it just personal preference, or do certain trees naturally lend themselves to certain styles?
It's a bit of both. Personal preference is definitely a factor, but you also want to consider the tree's natural growth habits. Like if it naturally grows upright, maybe a formal or informal upright style would suit it. If it
Right.
tends to weep, a cascade, maybe go for a cascade style.
So work with the tree's personality, not against it.
Exactly. You're guiding its growth, enhancing its natural beauty, not forcing it into a shape.
I like that. It's a real partnership, like you said before.
Yeah.
So we've talked about styles, but how do we actually get our trees into these different shapes?
That's where the techniques of pruning and wiring come in. And as we progress, we can explore even more techniques like grafting, defoliation, even carving.
Wow, there's so much to learn. But for now, let's stick with the basics, pruning and wiring.
Sounds good.
We touched on these earlier, but can you give us some more pointers on how to use them for shaping and styling?
Absolutely. When you're pruning for style, it's all about envisioning the final shape you want and making strategic cuts to guide the tree's growth in that direction.
So, like for the formal upright style.
Exactly. You would remove any inward growing branches, any branches that are crossing, prune the remaining branches to create that symmetrical, tapering shape.
It's like sculpting with living material.
It is shaping what remains to create that harmony.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, what about wiring? How does that help us shape the bonsai?
So wiring gives you more control over the direction and curvature of branches. You can create those graceful curves and angles that are classic bonsai. You choose the right wire gauge for the branch, wrap it in a spiral with even pressure so you don't damage the branch.
That's like a delicate process.
It takes patience and attention to detail, but it's worth it. You can transform a straight branch into a beautiful curve, even create that cascading foliage effect.
It's that blend of art and horticulture again.
Totally. Combining technical skill with artistic vision to create living sculptures that embody the beauty of nature.
So beautiful. Now, earlier we were talking about creating miniature landscapes with bonsai. What was it called again?
Penjing.
Penjing. It's like creating a three-dimensional picture with plants, rocks, soil, everything. You're basically building a tiny ecosystem in a container.
Yeah, exactly. Evoking a specific scene, a mood, a whole world in miniature.
That's incredible. It's like gardening meets sculpture meets storytelling.
It is. And it's so much fun. There's endless possibilities.
So for our listeners who are totally inspired right now, where can they go to learn more about indoor bonsai, maybe connect with other enthusiasts?
Oh, there are so many resources out there. Books, magazines, websites, online courses, and of course, bonsai clubs and societies all around the world where you can connect with other people who love bonsai.
I love that there's this whole community dedicated to keeping this ancient art form alive.
It's a beautiful thing. And the beauty of bonsai is that it's a lifelong journey of learning and discovery. There's always something new to explore, something new to create, always something new to appreciate.
Well said. And as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of indoor bonsai, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. Bonsai is more than just a hobby,
For sure.
It's a way of life. It encourages us to slow down, to appreciate the beauty around us, to cultivate a sense of peace and tranquility.
It's about nurturing life, shaping beauty, creating these tiny masterpieces that reflect the grandeur of the natural world.
Beautifully put. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the fascinating world of indoor bonsai. And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, keep growing.